What is up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another video here on the nerdy realm inside of the multiverse. Today we'll be talking about No Way Home once again, but this time we'll be diving in on everything that happened inside of the movie, talk about some Easter eggs and connections. So of course, before we begin talking about this movie in detail, this is a huge spoiler warning. If you have not seen No Way Home yet, I really advise that you wait to watch our discussion, as this movie is jam-packed with things that you definitely would not want spoiled. Come back to the video once you've seen the movie so that you can join us in the spoiler talk.
And remember, no spoilers.
But Jamie, you are a spoiler.
What you mean I'm a spoiler?
Now, let's get to discussing this movie and the major plot points that really formed this movie together and made it the perfect love letter to Spidey fans. Obviously, the biggest spoilers we could talk about when relating to this movie are the people that showed up in it. The first huge appearance that we got in this movie was Peter's lawyer, Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, who was once again played by Charlie Cox, who played him in the Netflix Daredevil series alongside Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, who we also got to see for the first time this week inside of the MCU, inside of the Hawkeye series. Marvel obviously had this planned out perfectly. Murdock's cameo in No Way Home was short but sweet. We even got to see a little display of the radar senses that he has. This begs the question, will we be seeing Daredevil and Kingpin facing off in the MCU soon, as their first MCU appearances were in the same week? Before we touch on those other appearances though, let's just talk about some of the other things. Green Goblin in this movie was just wow. Seeing him being punched constantly by Holland's Spidey and having him just look back up and creepily smile and laugh, giving a dark and psychotic tone to the character. Like I said in the last video, Willem Dafoe really went above and beyond. Some of the saddest moments in this movie come when Aunt May is killed trying to protect Peter from Goblin, where she says as she is dying, with great power there must also come great responsibility. This being different to what Uncle Ben says in other installments of Spider-Man films, but also actually being the original quote from the comics. Now, on to the final third act. Wow. With all of the hype and questions behind this movie constantly asking if they would show up or not, well, after Ned Leeds somehow is able to use the sling ring and conjure up magic pretty easily, relating back to his lines to Strange earlier in the movie, mentioning how his family has a background in sorcery. When we are in Ned's house, we can actually see there are ancient weapons hung on the walls. I wonder where this will go. Ned conjures up a portal looking for Tom Holland's Peter Parker. However, it ends up conjuring a portal to the wrong one when we get the big return of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man from the Amazing Spider-Man movies, where Electro and Lizard come from. Ned then conjures up another portal looking for their Peter Parker, and oh my gosh, we get the return of Tobey Maguire from the original 3 Spider-Man movies, where Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and Sandman come from. Tobey and Andrew's appearance in this movie had the audience cheering and clapping in theaters. This eventually brought all 3 of these Spider-Men together, as they have to come up with a plan. Before this happens though, we get a few callbacks to Tobey and Andrew's own movies, where we hear Andrew talking about how he lost his MJ, talking about Gwen Stacy's death in the second film. The 3 Spider-Men come up with the idea of making cures for the villains. We see some great moments in the lab while they are working together. We can see the pointing meme come to life in the lab. The 3 Spider-Men together was so well done, and they all have great chemistry together. You can really tell how much they enjoyed doing this. Tom makes a plan with the other 2 Spider-Men to lure all of the villains to the new and improved Statue of Liberty, which was mentioned by Yelena in the Hawkeye series. We get some funny and nostalgic callbacks callbacks to the original Spidey films once again in the final battle on the statue, specifically after the cures are all given to the villains, aside from Goblin, who hasn't arrived to the statue yet. Toby mentions how he fought a alien made up of black goo. This is obviously referencing his universe's Venom. This is where we get great callbacks and teases. We see Doc Ock and Toby interacting together again after all these years, where they recite some original lines from their movies. We then see Electro and Andrew interacting after Electro's cure was given to him by Doc Ock, who came to help the 3 Spider-Men. Electro says that he wishes that there was a black Spider-Man. This is obviously yet another tease to Miles Morales inside of the MCU. Miles also being teased in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, sorry, Miles. I'm not gonna make it.
Green Goblin finally shows up to the statue and he ends up destroying the box and spell with a pumpkin bomb, ultimately opening up the multiverse even more and starting to bring in more characters where we can see silhouettes in the sky. There are a ton of these silhouettes that we can see, which makes it hard to pinpoint who is who, but there are 3 that we can somewhat make out. These 3 include Rhino, a guy with a spear who is most likely being Kraven the Hunter, and someone who seems to have a metasome or a tail, this being Scorpion. These are all Spider-Man villains, obviously. Kraven the Hunter was actually going to be the original plan and main villain of No Way Home, probably before Sony and Marvel made their deals, opening up the opportunity to bring in the multiverse. Kraven the Hunter is also getting his own movie soon, and it's rumored Rhino will also be getting his own film. Maybe these will lead into the long-rumored Sinister Six movie, and we can see these characters face off with Spider-Man in live action. The explosion started to make the statue fall apart, which made MJ fall in a mirrored way as Gwen in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. When Tom Spidey attempts to save her, he gets swooped up by Goblin, and this is where we get a huge callback. Andrew screams no and ends up saving MJ himself, focusing more on catching her himself rather than the web, which is what killed Gwen in his movie. This is why we see him crying as he saves her. As all of the villains are cured and Doctor Strange is struggling with fixing the cracks in the sky and the people who are starting to come through to our universe, Holland Spider-Man tells him to go through with the original spell where everyone will forget that his true identity is Peter Parker. This brings us to even more sad moments in this movie where he has to say goodbye to all of the characters. He says goodbye to Andrew and Toby's Spider-Man as they begin to be brought back to their own universes. He then has to say goodbye to MJ and Ned as they too will forget about everything and who he is, where MJ makes him promise that he'll find them. The spell works out and it's now the final minutes of the film, where we see Peter going to the coffee shop where MJ works, and it all happens just like the spell said it would. Ned and MJ have no idea or have any memories of who he is, except we can still see MJ wearing the black dahlia necklace that Peter gave to her in Far From Home, showing that deep down she still has some memories somewhere that may come back. The coffee cup that he gets from MJ that he holds onto is also a little bit of an Easter egg, as we can see this with one of the Sanctum apprentices and with the Tracksuit Mafia in the Hawkeye series. The movie ends with Tom's Spidey moving into his own rundown apartment.
Rent? Not now. Listen, it's a free country. It's not rent-free country.
Leave me alone.
Give me rent.
As he sets it up, he sets up the Palpatine Lego piece, which calls back to the first time that we saw him and Ned together in the MCU. And we can see him making his own brand new suit, which highly resembles the comics. We can see that he is listening to the police radio where they mention the Rockefeller area, and we can see him swing out of the window and right by the building that Hawkeye's final battle in the next week's season finale of the series series takes place. Is this a simple coincidence, or will we get a Spider-Man Easter egg in Hawkeye, or even a possible cameo? We'll have to wait and see. This brings us to the post-credit scene, where we see the return of Tom Hardy's Venom. He is at the same resort that he got teleported to in his movie's post-credit scene, where he talks to the bartender about this universe's superpowered beings, mentioning Iron Man, Hulk, and Thanos. As he gets ready to go talk to Peter, he disappears and gets sent straight back to his universe, just like that. But it seems like a little bit of the Venom symbiote was left behind. Part of the Venom symbiote getting left behind could bring up a few different possibilities, mainly a Tom Holland symbiote Spider-Man, or maybe even an Agent Venom with this universe's Flash Thompson, as it is unlikely that they will introduce yet another Eddie Brock. We also got an end credit scene for this movie. However, since it is an entire trailer for the second Doctor Strange movie, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I will be making an entirely separate video talking about that, because there is quite a few things to talk about with that awesome end credits trailer. With all of that being said, we hope that you enjoyed No Way Home just as much as we did. Thank you all for watching. If you're feeling extra nerdy today, remember to hit the like button and subscribe with notifications turned on to support the channel and to get more nerdy content from us, as we will have a lot more coming soon. We will see you all the next time that we go through and explore the nerdy multiverse.